everybody, Kelley Richardson here. Today I am at ABQ Sewing Studios in Strathroy, and I want to talk to you about an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance and some of the tools that I use to achieve this. Now, I know personally how frustrating it can be when your block just does not fit together, your points aren't perky, or cut off altogether, and I really hate having to unsew a seam. So I know there are a wide range of quilters out there, some who are really upset if they're more than 1/64 of an inch out, and others where the 1/4 inch seam allowance is merely a suggestion. I tend to fall somewhere in the middle. I want beautiful flat blocks, I want perky points, and I don't want to drive myself crazy getting there. Remember, this hobby is supposed to be fun and it's supposed to take me to my happy place. So why not use some of those tools that are available to me to get to my happy place? A 1/4 inch seam allowance is not scary, nor is it elusive as Bigfoot. Get it? Bigfoot? No? Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at some of the feet that I use to get there and a couple of the tips and tricks that I have that just might help take you to your happy place. Okay. Let's start off by taking a look at some of the feet that may be available for your machine. Now, most machine manufacturers do have 1/4 inch feet available for their machines, so they are actually a great asset in making it a little bit easier for you to get your 1/4 of an inch. This happens to just be the regular foot that comes with this particular machine, and today I am working on a Baby Lock Crescendo. If I was to use this, I would need to move my needle position over, and I will show you how to do that in a moment. This is a 1/4 inch foot with a guide, and you'll notice that it has that little sticky out bar, and that helps you guide your fabric. So you just butt the edge of your fabric up against the guide, and that will give you a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And then there is the 1/4 of an inch foot without the guide bar, and I will also show you how to adjust for this one. Now, both of these feet, or any of the normal 1/4 inch feet, your machine needs to be in center needle position. This is the one where we move the needle position, and let's do that now. Okay, so let's start with the regular foot for the machine where we have to move over the needle position. So what I want to do is I want to move my needle position over so that when I run my fabric exactly down the edge of this foot, I'm going to have a 1/4 of an inch. So to do that, what I want to do is I'm going to put a ruler underneath here, and I'm going to run the very edge of the ruler with the very edge of the foot. So I'm lined that up, and then I will move my needle position over until my needle is directly above the 1/4 inch line. Now, you want to be careful. Just hand walk your machine down to make sure that the needle is lined up with the 1/4 inch. So you'll see on my ruler that this is my 1/4 inch mark, and you'll see that that is where my needle is coming down. So on this particular machine with this particular foot, I need to be in the 6mm position. And that may change depending on what machine you're working on and what foot you're working with. But it's a good idea if this is the only option that you have to record that setting so that you know in future, automatically, if you put this foot on and you move your needle position over to whatever your magic number happens to be, you will have an accurate 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. All right, this next foot that I want to talk about is the 1/4 foot with the guide. And when I tilt the foot back like this, you can kind of see that little sticky down guide right there. So you would take your fabric and you're going to butt your fabric up against that guide and guide your fabric in, pushing up against the guide. Now, you do want to be careful that you don't get overly aggressive pushing against the guide, because you can see that that guide can move out. So you just want to let the feed dogs do their job, and all you're doing is guiding the fabric into the foot, gently pushing it up against the guide, and that will give you also an accurate 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. The other foot is the 1/4 without the guide. So when you're using this one, you want to line the fabric up against this toe right here. So you will visually line your fabric up there. Oops. against that toe. So as I'm putting my fabric in, I'm always looking here and along. I don't want to be watching the needle go up and down because it's going to go up and down whether I look at it or not. I want to be looking at where my fabric is going. So I am watching to make sure that I'm lining my fabric up against that toe. Now, last but not least, if you have a machine that doesn't have these options for the 1/4 inch and you don't have the ability to move your needle position to the left or the right, then the other option is to actually mark on your machine bed where your 1/4 inch is. So what I've done is I've taken my little ruler and put it under there again. I have lined the needle up exactly over top of the 1/4 inch mark on the ruler, right there. And then you can just take a piece of masking tape, line that up right on the edge of that ruler, like that. And as you are sewing, you'll guide your fabric in along the edge of the tape. Now, you want to be careful that when you do that, you're not covering up your feed dogs with the tape. You want your feed dogs to still be able to be fully active and the tape to be off of your feed dogs. So there you have it. That's several ways to get yourself the accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. It is not scary and it's actually quite easy to obtain with your machine.